All right, welcome everybody. This is the first live stream on Debt to Dollars, and this is something I'm going to begin doing a lot more often, especially now that we've reached 50,000 subscribers here. Hopefully next week. So today I really just want to cover all these questions that you may have. This is the first live stream. Sorry, on the audio right there. So today I want to cover all the questions you may have around being an Amazon seller, things you might be struggling with. So please go ahead, add your comments into the chat, and I'll try to get to them by the end of this video. So I plan to go through this for about 30 minutes. We might be able to go a little bit longer. We'll see what we have in store here. So ask your questions there. And then I also have some questions that were submitted early that we'll be taking a look at. And they might be questions that you may have. So we can see in the chat here, I see Joe, Fadi, Absolute Deception. Thank you all for joining. We can go ahead and start with Joe's question here. He says, which marketplace is best to start in? So I take this as, which country marketplace that Amazon is currently in. My recommendation, if you're in the United States, sell within the United States. It is the largest marketplace, has the most opportunity for revenue growth, and in addition, it's also the most established marketplace. So if you're a beginner Amazon seller, you'll have the most success by joining the United States Amazon marketplace and beginning to sell there. Now, with that being said, I would also recommend the Mexican and the United Kingdom and Australian marketplaces, as those provide the best long-term opportunity. Now, what I mean by that is that currently they're developing countries for Amazon for their program, and especially Amazon FBA. So you can go ahead and you can begin selling in this country or these countries, and it might give you that long-term growth once those markets become more established, like the United States market. So I hope that answered your question there, Joe. Let's see if we have any others on here. Hey, everybody. Good to hear. Absolute Deception. That's great. You've been doing it for 5 months. I want to say that 2022 has been a very difficult year to be an Amazon seller, to begin selling, especially. We're seeing a lot of inflation over the past couple months. Hopefully it's at its peak this past month, but it's making it very difficult for profit margins, because whenever you order from your suppliers overseas or within your country, you're seeing inflated unit rates, and therefore it's driving competition, and consumer spending is also down. So great job for doing that for 5 months. I hope you're still at it, and it's great news that you also had your best month this past month. All right, so I'm going to jump into some of the questions that were submitted so I can prioritize those. But feel free to, again, to add your comments into the chat, and I'll get to those after we run through these. So here's the first question. This was submitted by Robert, and he said, I just launched my product this month and made $83 within a week. Now that is a reasonable number in terms of revenue when you're a beginner Amazon seller. Do not fool yourself and think that you're going to make thousands of dollars right from the start. It takes a lot of time and a lot of effort in the right products in order to achieve much higher revenue results. So Robert's question is, how can I organically generate reviews to increase my seller's rank on Amazon? Now, this is probably the main thing that I focus on whenever I launch a product, is to quickly obtain these reviews as quick as possible. And the reason why you want to do this is because the more reviews you have and the higher quality that those reviews are, you're going to be able to rank your product listing higher whenever someone searches a keyword that resembles the product that you're selling. So that is always my focus here. Now, the one thing I want to cover here is how you can actually ask customers for reviews. The first thing that you can do is you can go ahead and you can put a slip of paper in each product set that basically just says thank you to the customer, and you can ask politely for an honest review. Amazon may check this, and there are guidelines around this, so make sure you do not ask there deliberately leave a 5-star review, because Amazon may restrict that. And they may suspend your listing. So just ask politely, say, hey, please leave an honest review. I really appreciate your customer service and the help that you've given my company. Now, one thing that you can do is you can ask in a way that is only through Amazon's platform. You cannot email that individual. You cannot directly contact them unless you're doing it through this way. So if you go to your order, an order that you have just submitted and received and it's closed out, you can select the order ID. So to get here, go to your order, and then select the order ID, which should be a long number like this. Now in the upper right hand corner, you're going to see a button. If the order has been processed and is completed, it's going to say request a review. This is a way for you to intentionally contact that customer and to send an automated email to them asking for a review. Now, this really only works about 1% to 2% of the time for my business. So it's not like just because you select this button, someone's going to leave you a review. But it's really the best thing that you can do that Amazon provides you. Now, when you select this button, you're going to be met with one of two screens. The first screen, more than likely, is going to be this screen. It's going to say that you are not eligible at this time. Now, the reason why you're not eligible is because you cannot ask for a review unless that product has been delivered 5 to 30 days after that date. Now, there's no way of telling when that product is going to be delivered. You can only determine when the order was received and when it was processed, but you can make a guess. And what I usually do is after 7 to 10 business days, I'll go ahead, I'll come back in here, and I'll go ahead and click that submit or request a review. And then what will happen at that point is that automatic email will be generated. Amazon will tell you that it was successful, and that was really your best chance of obtaining that review. So Robert, I hope that has answered your question. It should always be your focus to generate as many reviews and to obtain those as quick as possible. Okay, so Kevin has a couple questions here. He says that after my samples arrive and testing of samples come back copacetic, my question is, when do I create my listing? Before or after the product shipped from China? And then he also notes here that my first order will be coming to me directly before shipping to the FBA warehouse. So there's two ways that you can ship your products, at least in my viewpoint. One is you ship the products to yourself from your supplier, wherever the supplier is from, it does not matter. You ship them to yourself, you inspect them, you may take product photos at that point, and then you ship them to the FBA warehouse. I recommend doing this for all first-time orders. That way you can actually inspect your products. Now, the second way is that you can ship directly from your supplier's location to Amazon. It's more risky, but it's less shipping cost. So to answer Kevin's question here, what you want to do is you want to receive your products from your supplier, go ahead, inspect them, take your product photos, and then create your listing. That gives you an opportunity to inspect your products, to take those photos, professional looking photos, and then you can create your listing. After you have your listing created, all you need to do is go ahead and create your shipment plan, which I have many videos on how to do that, and then you can go ahead and ship them to the FBA warehouse. On the other hand, if you were shipping directly from China, your supplier's location, to Amazon, you'll never actually be able to see your product. So you actually have to create your listing before you actually receive those products at Amazon's warehouse. The reason why you have to create your listing before is because to do that, you actually have to be able to, the reason why you ship them before is because you don't have an opportunity to see those products or create your shipment plan, which is required. Okay, so let's move through this a little bit more here. There are some additional items, Kevin says, to include in the listing that I'm sourcing from the US. So he's also sourcing from the US. He says, also, there's an FBA warehouse close to me. Any way I can get it shipped there, reducing shipment cost? This is a good question because you obviously, with inflation right now and shipping charges being out of the wall, it's very expensive to ship long distances, especially across the country when you have a 50-pound box. So all you need to do, Kevin, you really just have to worry about your ship from address that you input when creating your shipment plan. What Amazon's going to do is they're going to take that ship from address and they're going to find the nearest fulfillment center to you, and more than likely they're going to request you to send your units there. So they automatically tell you or automatically assign you the closest shipment FBA warehouse without you really have to do anything. Now, there are some instances where there may be an FBA warehouse that has, let's say you were selling hats. They have so many of that style hats that you're selling. So Amazon might find the second nearest FBA warehouse that is in more demand and requires more of those hats. So it's really just whatever you put in the ship from address, Amazon's going to assign that to you so you can go ahead and ship to the nearest fulfillment center. All right, we have two more here, and then I'm going to check the chat and we can cover some more of the live questions. It's my first live stream and it gets pretty difficult just talking this much. Usually I take breaks when I make my video. So Michelle has two questions here. We're going to tackle the first one, then we'll get to the second one. She says, is it necessary to pay for sponsorship for your products? Now, I take this as, is it necessary to market and advertise your products? I'd say in today's environment, especially over the last 2 years with the competition rising on Amazon, I'd say it is necessary. However, it's not required. If you're looking for immediate success and really the quickest way to grow your product line or your product, I would highly recommend using Amazon pay-per-click advertising or Google AdWords as a form to really drive sales and to drive customers to your product listing. Now, I don't say it's required because you can still make sales by organically receiving those orders, but it's much more difficult when you have 0 reviews. You're a new seller, and especially if you're not branding your products, because if I'm a customer and I somehow stumble upon your listing with 0 reviews, I really have no idea of the credibility of you, your brand, or the product. So those reviews are ultimately very, very critical to your success. And by driving, using advertising and driving those customers to your listing, it gives you that best opportunity to obtain those first initial reviews. Okay, and our second question, are there any strategies in order for you to sell fast in Amazon? So there are a lot of strategies, and it's going to depend, if you're private labeling, wholesaling, or if you're doing retail arbitrage. There's different strategies that you want to apply to all 3 of those different business models in order to accelerate your sales and to grow your business. So I've actually gone ahead, I've listed out 5, and I just came up with a 6 as I was thinking about this. So we'll cover that 6th one, which will be the first one here. The first thing you can do, and what I would do, is I would price my product well below the existing competition. And when I say well below, at least 10%. So if someone is selling a $10 product, I would list mine at $9. The lower that you go, I guarantee the quicker that you'll be able to sell your product. With that being said, you are going to lose out on your profit margin is going to decrease. But sometimes, that's definitely worth it in the beginning to obtain those initial reviews. It's going to give you the best advantage to grow in the long term. Okay, so let's move to these 5 here. The first is your proactive way of accelerating your sales, and that is finding a product that's in demand with low competition using product research. I have a lot of videos on my channel on how I perform my product research. It's definitely one of the most overlooked aspects of being an Amazon seller, and it's something I didn't do my first year. And as soon as I started making that transition and putting weeks of product research into new and upcoming products, I've really started to see a lot of success, and which got me to this point today. Second here is advertising. Again, I mentioned Amazon pay-per-click advertising. If you have a professional seller plan, you will be able to use this. And the second would be Google AdWords. The only thing with Google AdWords, 1, it's typically cheaper than pay-per-click advertising, but 2, you're not going to be able to advertise directly on Amazon.com or Amazon.co, whatever domain, whatever marketplace you're selling on. It's just something that you think about with your customer base and your target audience. Third is listing optimization. I cannot stress it enough. Make sure that you take professional looking photos. You can either hire someone or you can do it yourself with an app and even your smartphone. I have many videos on how to do this, and you can teach yourself on how to create those professional photos. Do not use supplier stock photos. It's only going to hurt your listing and hurt your sales in the long run. So 4 are your keywords. This enhances your search engine optimization or your SEO, which is ultimately how high you rank when a customer searches for a similar product type like yours. Now, just because you have the most high demand just because you have the most in demand and trending keywords does not mean that you're just going to rank at the top of the search results every time, especially when you have 0 reviews. Keywords enhance your SEO, but it's not everything. So just keep that in mind. The other 3 above this and the pricing, much more important to accelerate your success. And 5 are your reviews. One of the most important things. If you have 10 to 15 5-star reviews, that's really where I've noticed my sales begin to exponentially pick up. So make that your target, 10 to 15 5-star reviews when launching. It's really going to help you grow from there. Okay, so I'm just going to take a second break. I'm going to pull up the chat here. I see we have a good bit of questions that came in. Okay. This is awesome. It's a lot more than I expected. Okay, so I'm going to scroll up. Jay asked a question, have you done retail online arbitrage? What are your thoughts about it? I have done retail arbitrage. I have not done online arbitrage. Going to local retail stores, and my thoughts are not positive about it. So with retail arbitrage, what you're essentially doing, you're going to a retail store, a brick and mortar store, and you are buying something that's on clearance or on a major sale think of a Black Friday sale, and then you're selling that at market value or higher than market value on Amazon. Now, with this being said, it's not like there's hundreds of dollars in between for what you bought it for and what you can sell it for, and therefore your profit margins are going to be very, very small. So when I did retail arbitrage for about a month, I noticed that my profit margins were 1 to 5%. I was making pennies on the dollar for every unit that I sold, and there were some units that I was unable to sell, or they got suspended and taken down. So you take a lot of risk just for a small bit of change. I really do not recommend it to my Patreon mentorship group. I really recommend private labeling. It will give you the best long-term success and ultimately the best way to grow your store on Amazon. So Jay, I wouldn't recommend it. Doesn't mean you shouldn't do it, but I personally would not. All right, moving down here. I am at the point of stage of ordering product, but haven't added as product to my inventory on ASC. Do you think barcodemania works in Canada? I cannot confirm that it will. My expectation is that barcodemania or any third-party barcode reseller will not work on Amazon. Amazon, since early 2021, Amazon has become very, very strict on using GS1 certified barcodes, and the cross-referencing those databases happens almost instantaneously. So there's not really any way around it, unfortunately, at this point. Back in 2019, I only used barcodemania, and throughout 2020. But today, go ahead and use a GS1 barcode. GS1 is in just about every country that Amazon is in. So you can go ahead and go to your GS1 country's website, and you can order those barcodes from them directly. Okay. I'm worried about product quality, ordered from China, so thinking of ordering to my home and check all 560 pieces and then ship to FBA. Yes, I covered this a little bit earlier. I would recommend going ahead and shipping your products to yourself first. One, if it's with a new supplier that you have not worked with, therefore you're not 100% sure of their quality. And two, if it's your first time ordering this product. And I guess I'd say three, if you're customizing the product at all, you're imprinting a logo on the actual product, you want to be able to see that before your customer gets it. Because it's actually happened to me where I've gone ahead with a new supplier, I've shipped directly from China to from my supplier's location to Amazon, and I never got to see the product. And all of a sudden, about a couple months later, when I started receiving a lot of sales on that product, I began to receive a lot of returns and refunds, and I wasn't sure why. I ended up figuring out that the logo that I requested to be imprinted on there differed from what the information that they sent me, and it really ruined the design, let's just say that, and it led to a lot of angry customers. So if it's your first time, go ahead, ship those products to yourself, and then ship to Amazon. It's honestly not that much more expensive as long as you use Amazon's partnered carrier, which is UPS. Okay, best stores for online arbitrage. I'm sorry I'm not the best person to talk about that. I mentioned a little bit ago, I've only done retail arbitrage, but I'm sure you can do, I don't even want to comment on that. I really don't know a good website that you could go ahead on and use that. Okay, if I have no sales, how can I get my product from Amazon? So you can actually go ahead and retrieve your product or your products and your inventory from Amazon. All you have to do is go to your Amazon Seller Central on your desktop and create a removal order. I'm not sure exactly how to get there just off the top of my head, but you can Google Amazon Seller Central, create removal order, and you can go through the process and the steps to have that shipped to you directly. If you're out of the country and you're not within the United States or the marketplace that you're selling in, unfortunately, Amazon will not ship internationally, so you'll be forced to either donate or liquidate that existing inventory that you have. Okay, looks like some people are answering some of the questions here. Okay, Business Connect with Roy. I only have one product selling at the moment. Is there any need to create a storefront? I would say no. Save your time. If you have a lot of products, you want to create a storefront because it's really going to establish and recognize your brand or your brands that you have. If you only have one product, it's very unlikely that someone's going to click your store, even if you have the best product for that specific problem and you solve it for them. Save your time, work on your storefront later once you have 3 to 5 products, and especially if they're all the same brand name. Oh, it scrolled me down. Okay, going back up. Keep the questions coming. This is awesome. Really appreciate it. Okay, so a lot of questions, and we have about 10 minutes of time, so I'm just going to jump through a couple of these that I see that would be relevant to the wider audience. I'm going to try to answer somebody who hasn't set a question yet. Okay, here's a good one. Can we use manufacturer photos if I'm just starting selling on Amazon? First, I would not recommend it, and I'll get into why here in a second. The second thing is that you always need approval to use someone else's images, regardless, if you're in the United States or wherever you are, because that is a copyright infringement. If you're using someone else's intellectual property, like an existing photo, without their approval, then you're ultimately doing something wrong, and you will be caught in the long run. If your supplier or your manufacturer gives you approval to use those photos on your Amazon listing, and make sure you tell them for your Amazon listing, not just for you to store, on your hard drive, you can use those with their written approval. But again, from my experience with Alibaba sellers that are on there, the product photos really are not that great, and you want to make sure, especially if there's text on those photos, that it's also the same language that's commonly used in that marketplace. So you do not want a photo with Chinese on a cell phone for a product photo. You want that to be in English if you're selling in the Amazon marketplace. And I know hiring professional photographers can be very expensive. I do understand that. I completely agree, and that's why I've created a lot of videos on how you can do it yourself. And trust me, you will be surprised how quickly you can actually become, at least an amateur in photography just by using your cell phone and an application. I think it's called Pixelfy, something like that. Okay, next one. It's my first product. I haven't created my listing. Can I send 500 quantity on my first order? More than likely, no. You're usually capped at 200 quantity for your first shipment. It doesn't mean that you cannot ship 200 at one time, and then 200 the next week, and 200 there following. It's really dependent on your seller history and how much inventory space that Amazon has allocated to you. The more credible of a seller you become, the more reviews you get for your store and your products. Amazon's going to recognize that, and as long as you're in good standing, you don't have a bunch of disputes, they're going to grant you more inventory space, assuming that you need it and you're making a lot of daily sales. Also, one last thing I want to say on that, I wouldn't send 500 right from the start because there's no guarantee that you're going to sell all 500, but the only guarantee is that you're going to actually store 500 units at least, and you're going to pay for all 500 units. When this is the fourth quarter later this year, I think it's 2.7 times is what the inventory rates are. So you're going to be paying a lot of money just to store them there. Start out small. Start out with maybe 100 units. Send them there, and if you sell out all 100 units and you got a stock within a week, that was a good problem to have. And then you can go ahead and send those other 400 units now that you've validated that those sales are going to be coming in. Okay, Joe, do you sell in Europe? I do not. I sell in the Mexican marketplace, United States, and then Canada. Okay, we're almost near the bottom here. So I'll go back up. Are Chinese third-party inspections real, or do they have connections with Chinese suppliers and bribes? I gotta be careful what I say here, but I'd say as long as you're using the trade assurance Chinese inspector, or sorry, not Chinese inspectors, but the trade assurance Alibaba inspectors that they provide you the opportunity to hire when you're at the order screen, those are verified, and that is from a reputable company. I have been in contact with those inspectors. They have submitted inspection reports to me. I've reviewed them with pictures, so it actually is happening. As far as bribes and, I'm sure that stuff happens, but I cannot say that it is going to happen. Just make sure you use Alibaba's trade assurance and verification. Do not go ahead and just hire someone that you randomly found online. Okay, let's go to Jay. What can I find in your Patreon and thoughts about Amazon wholesale? I'll get into the Patreon here, and that's the last bit I want to talk about, the last 5 minutes. So that's a great transition. So I'll answer your second question here. Thoughts about Amazon wholesale. I'd recommend Amazon wholesale over retail arbitrage because profit margins are typically higher, but you need to be careful with the existing listing that you're going to be selling on. As I mentioned before, for the listings that you're going to sell on, you need the brand owner approval if there is one, or you need to resort to using a GTIN exemption and sell with a generic brand name. I personally would go ahead and private label. It does take a lot more upfront risk and upfront cost to get a trademark and to register it with Amazon. But if you want to sell long term, go ahead and private label. I guarantee your success is going to be much greater than wholesaling. And the last thing I'll say on that is the only time I would wholesale is if I'm selling seasonal products like 4th of July decorations or a major holiday coming up. because there's less risk as long as you're ahead of the schedule when you're weeks before the actual holiday. Okay, let's answer one more question here. Man, they're flying in now. All right, well, it seems like there's a lot of comment in here, and I want to take a moment just to cover the mentorship and some other services that I provide. A shameless plug, but I really appreciate everyone for joining today. This has been awesome. I will do this every month going forward. Now that we have had a lot of people join and a lot of good questions, I hope this has been of value to you. Just so you're aware, I do have 3 services that I provide where you can connect one-on-one with me and I can personally help you. I focus a lot more of my career now on this because I really enjoy helping others create the freedom and the lifestyle that they want that I was able to accomplish last year. So first is mentorship on Patreon. All of these links are in the description where you can go and you can take a look. I don't have too many spots open left on Patreon, but what I offer you is I offer a product research packet that I complete each month. For my top product that month, it's a product that I would either sell or I highly recommend selling. This mentorship program connects you one-on-one with me through chat on Patreon and Discord, so we can chat every day of the week. We can comment on what is going on in your Amazon store, and I can help you apply different techniques that I've mastered over the past couple of years for my own business. It allows you to connect really one-on-one with me, and that's what you're paying for. The last 2 here are on Fiverr. I do product research, so I'll do, based on your requirements that you submit to me once you order on Fiverr, I'll find you a product that meets those requirements and my gig requirements. These are products that I would sell personally for my own business. I do not recommend any products that I would not personally sell. And the last one